You know, every young person that was growing up in Quebec and eastern part of Canada, Atlantic provinces, from pretty well the 1920s till about the 1980s or 90s, the majority of them were fans of the Montreal Canadiens. This Toronto Maple Leaf, Canada's team bullshit is all a corporate shill. It's all about product placement in the TV networks or whatever. But it was a 70-year period where everybody followed the Montreal Canadiens either to become them or emulate them. The Quebecois because of Maurice Roch and Richard, Jean Beliveau, English Canada because of Ken Dryden and Bob Gainey, all the top players, Larry Robinson. But what encompasses this devotion to the glorious ones deals with a cousin of mine, a distant cousin. Now, for a lot of the Americans on my channel, this is probably the first time you're hearing about this, but I'm going to tell you the story. My Christmas story, actually, could be the greatest Canadian short story of all time. It's something called The Hockey Sweater. Now, the hockey sweater, originally Le Chandail de Hockey, in its French original, presentation, is a short story by Canadian award-winning author Roch Carrier, my distant cousin, and translated to English by Sheila Feischman. It was originally published in 1979 under the title Un abominable feu d'érable sur la glace, an abominable maple leaf on the ice. It was adapted into an animated short called The Sweater, Le Chandail, by the NFB in 1980 and illustrated by Sheldon Cohen. Now, the story is based on a real-life experience Corey had as a child in Saint-Justin, Quebec, beautiful region of the Belle Province. This happened in 1946 as a fan of the Montreal Canadiens hockey team and its star player, the Rocket, Maurice Richard. Corey and his friends all wear Canadian sweaters with Richard's number 9 on the back. When his mother orders a new sweater from Eaton's department store in the big city after Rock's old one is worn out, he is mistakenly sent a sweater of Montreal's bitter rival, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Instead, Corey faces the persecution of his peers and his coach prevents him from playing. Now, The Hockey Sweater is Corey's most famous work and is considered an iconic piece of Canadian literature. Not too many short stories actually in all of the world can compare to this, because within the concept of representing a full country or a full cultural aspect, there is no peer in English literature or Francophone literature, to my knowledge, in a non-fiction aspect. The story has sold over 300,000 copies and has been republished in numerous anthologies. It exemplifies the nation's passion for hockey, and while it's often considered an allegory of the relationship and tensions that exist between Francophones and Anglophones, the story is popular throughout the entire nation. A line from the story appears on a Canadian $5 bills as part of the Canadian Journey banknote series printed between 2001 and 2013. Now, in the aftermath of Quebec's Quiet Revolution, tensions between Francophones within the province and Anglophones escalated as a provincial movement led by the governing Parti Québécois to separate from Canada, and this reached its peak in the late 1970s. Seeking to explain Quebec's independence movement, the CBC's Toronto affiliate asked Carrier, whose debut novel La Guerre, Yes Sir, had been popular among both French and English Canadians, to explain what does Quebec want. Now, Corey spent several weeks trying to answer the question, ultimately producing what he described as a flat essay that was dull as an editorial in a newspaper. 3 days before his deadline, he informed the CBC that he would not be able to complete the project. He was told that the network had already booked studio time for him and had been promoting his appearance. As he remained unwilling to present his essay, Corey was asked to write about anything he wanted to fill the time. Considering what to write, he thought of his own childhood. He stated in an interview he began thinking of what it was that I felt was really myself. And I remember it was when I put on my skates and my Eaton catalogs on my legs, and I stood up, and I was taller than my mom, and I had a stick in my hand, so I was stronger than my brother, and felt that I was little me. So I started to write about that, and it turned into the Hockey Sweater story. The hockey sweater, again, is based on a real-life experience he had in 1946 in Saint-Justin. The story centers on his obsession he and his friends had with the Habs organization and with the Rocket. He writes of how they emulate Richard's style and mannerisms on and off the ice. The brill cream they wore, the food they ate, the way they wrapped their sticks. We were 5 Montreal against 5 other Montreal, throwing themselves on the puck with the same enthusiasm. We were 10 players, all wearing the uniform of the Habs, all with the same burning desire. We all wore the famous number 9 on our backs. His old sweater having worn out, Corey's mother seeks to replace it. She writes a letter to Eaton's in French to order a new sweater from their English-only catalog. When the package does arrive, the young Corey is horrified to discover the sweater of the Leafs was sent by mistake. He argues with his mother, who refuses to return the sweater for fear of offending Monsieur Eaton, an English-speaking fan of Toronto. In reality, Eaton's policy was goods satisfactory or money refunded, so an exchange of sweaters would have been performed without objection. Now, as the story goes on, a humiliated Corey wears the sweater to the rink, where his peers stare at him in his blue sweater. His coach removes him from his usual forward position, holding him back as a reserve on defense. By the third period, he still has played when one of the team's defensemen is struck by a stick. Believing his chance has finally come, he jumps onto the ice, only to be given an immediate penalty by the parish priest, acting as referee. The priest claims Corey's substitution is legal, as there are already 5 players on the ice. Corey is so angry that he smashes his stick on the ice in frustration, breaking it, for which the priest scolds him. Just because you're wearing a new Toronto Maple Leaf sweater, unlike the others, it doesn't mean you're going to make the laws around here. The priest sends Corey to the church to pray for forgiveness, and where Corey instead asks God to send 100 million moths to eat his Toronto Maple Leaf sweater. Now, Corey did write the story in French, and it first appeared in 1979 again, that the abdominal maple leaf on the ice in a collection of his works called Les Enfants de Bonhomme dans la Lune, Children of the Man in the Moon. It appeared in English translation by Sheila Fishman the same year as part of an English collection of Corey's work called The Hockey Sweater and Other Stories. It has since been republished in numerous anthologies of Canadian hockey literature. Now, a year after publication, the NFB adapted a story in a 10-minute animated short called The Sweater. Animated by Sheldon Cohen and a voice by Corrier, the film became one of the NFB's most popular works and has won numerous awards. For some reason, though, it didn't win the Academy Award for Best Short, but it did win Best Animated Film at the BAFTAs in '81. Now, in '82, Cohen approached May Cutler, founder of Tundra Books, to create an illustrated children's book of the story. It was published in '84 as A Hockey Sweater, and by 2014 had sold over 300,000 copies. Following the success of the book, Cutler asked Corey to write 3 more stories of his childhood to be illustrated by Cohen, each covering a different sport in a different season. They were published as The Boxing Champion, The Longest Home Run, and The Basketball Player. Now, during the fall of 2017, the Segal Center for Performing Arts in Montreal staged a musical adaptation of the story. The Hockey Sweater musical world premiered in celebration of Montreal's 375th anniversary. The original cast features an ensemble of mainly children, including Drew Davis, Berkeley Silverman, and led by Jesse Noah Grumman, among others. The original production was choreographed and directed by Donna Fior, written by Emil Scher, and composed by Jonathan Monroe. The production made its second appearance at the National Arts Centre stage in Ottawa. Now, the passion Corey and his friends had for the game of hockey, particularly for the Habs, is the dominant theme of the story. In introducing the film for his video anthology, Leonard Maltin's Animated Favorites from the NFB of Canada, American critic Leonard Maltin noted that hockey is an obsession, a countrywide preoccupation that dominates many lives, particularly those of children. He argued that The Sweater is one of the NFB's best animated works that combine humor with cultural significance. A particular emphasis was the children's fascination with Mr. Shaw, Montreal star player from 1942 until 1960. Richard, again, was a prolific goal scorer, and in the 45 season, 1 year before the events of The Hockey Sweater, Richard became the first player to score 50 goals in 50 games in the NHL. Richard attended the 1980 premiere of The Sweater in Montreal, and according to Corrier, was moved to tears by the film. Richard also requested copies that he could show it to his own children. Now, Sheldon Poisson, curator of the Canadian Museum of Civilization, noted during the opening of an exhibit dedicated to Richard in 2004, they had long been an idol in Quebec. But it was Corey's story that expanded Richard's reputation in English Canada and sealed his place as a pan-Canadian hero. Jason Blake, a professor of English at the University of Ljubljana, argued the irony of this in his book, Canadian Hockey Literature. He stated that many francophones viewed Richard as a hero of the people, an athletic freedom fighter against the rest of Canada. The conflicts Corey experienced in a hockey sweater are sometimes viewed as being an allegory for the relationship and tensions between French and English Canada, as well as a rivalry between the Habs and the Leafs. Corey stated, however, he had no political motivations and only wished to tell a good little story. Now, the hockey sweater has achieved an iconic place in our Canadian literature. It is the defining work of Corey's career, and while he's lamented the fact that it has so overshadowed his other works, Corey appreciates what its popularity has given him. There's almost not one day in my life there's not something nice that happens because of the story. As an illustration of the place hockey holds in the Canadian psyche, the Bank of Canada placed a line from the story on the reverse of the 2001 series $5 bill, making Corey the first author to be quoted on a Canadian banknote. The line, appearing in both French and English, is Les hivers de mon enfance étaient la saison longue. Nous vivons trois lieux, l'école, l'église et le patinoire, mais la vraie vie était sur le patinoire. The winters of my childhood were long, long seasons. We lived in 3 places, the school, the church, and the skating rink. But our real life was on the skating rink. It is accompanied by a series of children playing outdoors in the winter, sent by one in a Montreal Canadiens sweater with Moritz's number 9 on his back. Now, the illustrated book of the hockey sweater was among the children's books included as official Canadian gifts presented to the Prince of Wales and his family during an official visit in 1991 for his then 9-year-old son William. Canadian artist Robert Turris, as part of a personal tradition of honoring others, brought a copy of the story to space when he traveled to the International Space Station in 2009 and later presented the copy to Carrier. Of the story, Turris said, it represents part of Canadian literacy, it represents supported reading, and I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Carrier. The story has also been set to music by composer Abigail Richardson Schlutt as part of the piece commissioned by the Toronto Symphony, the Calgary Philharmonic, and the National Arts Centre Orchestras in 2012. Just to wrap up this, I'm not the greatest Carrier writer in the world. Far from it. What Roch did, imagine a world with no Montreal Canadiens, with no story of the hockey sweater, no Stanley Cups, just the Toronto Maple Leafs, just that bullshit squad. Montreal Canadiens are gods. You take up for Montreal Canadiens as close to touching God. And people ask me why you're a Christian, Jeffrey. Well, I said, I met John Beliveau. I know what God looks like. They are gods to us. Because on a cold Saturday night, it's dark outside in the winter. It's cold in the winter, especially in northern New Brunswick, eastern Quebec. You turn on the TV and you listen to the radio, and the gods would do everything they could to celebrate the best of teammanship, of friendship among athletes. Every Stanley Cup I saw in my life, it's like a love. It's like a beautiful woman you've dated or made love to or had time with. It stands with you even the years they've lost. It's like a lost love. There's always good emotions. Look what Montreal did in 2021, getting all the way to the Stanley Cup final, beating the hated Leafs in our own game. Came within 3 games of winning the cup, but we didn't win a cup. We're winners already. We will go down as one of the greatest sporting institutions ever of all time. When people think of hockey, they don't think of Toronto Maple Leafs. You know nothing about hockey. 2 things you know: the Montreal Canadiens and Wayne Gretzky. And a lot of people don't know who Wayne Gretzky is. You look at Fast Time Ridgemont High. What jersey are you wearing, ladies and gentlemen? It's a Montreal Canadiens jersey. You Viggo Mortensen, Lord of the Rings. What was he wearing underneath his arbor? It's a Montreal Canadiens jersey. sums it up. So if you've never read The Hockey Sweater or The Sweater, please pick it up. It's a quick read. It's written at a grade 6 level, and there's nothing bad in it. It can be read to any age group. And if you're a new Canadian or even a new American, it explains a lot about the connections with sport and Canada as well, because Canada is hockey. It is our game. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our Vintage Hockey Podcast, let us know with a like, comment, and subscribe. And as I like to say, and Roch Carrier says it better than me, keep your stick on the ice, because you never know when the hockey gods need you to be focused on the game at hand.